Knaub, welcome to Moving Mountains. I'm here today with Mark Maroldo, private wealth manager from Bash Capital. Mark, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we've just gotten to know each other more recently, but we've really clicked, and we met in person at Matt and Scott's Padel event at Padelphia. Pretty cool event you guys put on.
Pretty wild.
Yeah, incredible. You guys are doing some amazing stuff. So, for all the people listening, tell us a little bit about you personally and your journey, and you're an ultra athlete. Tell us about some of your athletic pursuits as well as your entrepreneurial.
So I got into financial planning kind of at a later age. That's what I went to school for at Virginia Tech. I ended up coming out of school, got comfortable with a job, and then in my 30s, when I was 30, my birthday, I got into the business of financial planning. Started out in a kind of environment where you had a manager and it wasn't independent. Working there very shortly, realizing that's not the route I wanted to go in financial planning. I wanted to be more independent. That's when I left, went to Cetera, and then now, recently in December, I switched to LPL, which is now Bash Capital.
Okay, great.
So, yeah.
And
from the running and triathlon and Ironman aspect of things, I would say it's been 7 years that I've been doing that. I probably have about 200 races, like running races under me, and then I just started switching to triathlons.
Okay.
So I did my first half Ironman in September, and I got 3 half Ironmans this year, and about 6, 7 Olympic sprint triathlons.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what sparked, this?
To be honest with you, it's having kids.
Okay.
It's having
try
kids.
To stay healthy to keep up with them? Or is there a story behind it?
I just feel like I realize that if I schedule something, I know I will stay on track and be disciplined to train. I want to be there for my kids. I completely changed my lifestyle when I started doing this. And the ancillary benefit to it all is it's a stress reliever.
Yeah.
It keeps me on track. When you have those rough days at work or anything in life, and you can go out for a run or a bike ride or a swim and just be with yourself and your mind and clear your mind of all those, the stuff that we deal with day in and day out. It's extremely helpful for me.
For sure.
Big stress reliever.
Yeah. I love that. Well, pretty amazing stuff. I know you're passionate about what you do, both professionally and with your competition. So kudos for you.
Yeah.
And I really want to ask you about how you earn trust and become a trusted resource for the people that you serve, right? That's not easy to do, and especially I feel like in your industry, there's a lot of people that maybe aren't deserving of trust, and
right.
So how do you do it? And I know that's really your forte.
Yeah, both my parents are retired school teachers, so I think it really came from them. My biggest niche is working with school teachers. When I got into the business, and you start out and you're making 300 phone calls a day, and then all of a sudden the industry changed and you can't do that anymore. I pivoted to working with school districts, and I always stressed and actually felt very comfortable working with teachers because I know what my parents went through teaching, and it was more of like, I'm here to educate you, and I use that word a lot with my clients because how can anyone make any decision without being educated first?
Right.
So that's the approach I took. And if I helped them in any way and gave them information and educated them so they can make an educated decision on if this is the right investment for them or right insurance policy for them, at least they had the information to make that educated decision. And to me, that was a win. And it wasn't about, always trying to get them to sign up or become a client right away. It was like, you don't move forward until they're comfortable with things.
Right.
And I always took that approach. I learned it from my parents. I learned it from them being teachers.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I've grown my business.
Yeah. Well, I know that you're a new podcast listener and you're also new to maybe like the personal professional development. Like I think maybe even reading some of the business books and you're diving in on
Absolutely.
A favorite of mine with 10X is easier than 2X.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very powerful. I kind of would say I'm kind of old school. It's like call people. I think being an entrepreneur, you have to step outside of your comfort zone. Since I've been with Bash Capital, I've completely done that.
Yeah.
Never used to network. In the sense of like going out there, I'm not one to like talk about myself. But you have to do that when you network. This is what I bring to the table. This is what I do for clients. This is my method. This is my vision. This is what I want to accomplish. Very quickly, it's becoming a reality to me. It's become a key part of my business now. So it's just not the school districts, working with them, working with referrals. It's really networking with people who are like-minded that want to do what I want to do in the sense of being there for people, helping them. Which is important.
Totally. And I think, I connected you with someone who you wouldn't have necessarily thought of as a good connection and being so synergistic. And I saw a lot of the synergy.
It's amazing when I had, you're talking about Monica, when I had lunch with her, it was unbelievable the connections we have, especially with the school districts, sports, athletics, just the different connections. I mean, I rattled off like 15 different areas that I could totally help her with.
Right. And that's going to come back to you. If
great.
you lead with value, right? It's like Gary Vee.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Give, right? Jab, right hook before you ask.
Yeah. And it's amazing.
And people want to help you once you help them a couple times.
Yeah. And I learned that early in my career that when you help people, you just don't know where it's going to lead.
Yeah.
One of my biggest referral sources was someone that I didn't even do business with. Her father needed help with his long-term care policy. The company totally stopped his claim for no reason. The agent wasn't around. I said, listen, just make me broker of record. Doesn't cost you anything. Let me work with the insurance company. And in 2 days, I had the claim back up and running.
Yeah. And
to this day, I probably have 30 clients, and some of them are my largest clients because I did the right thing. Right. I think that's the biggest thing in my industry is you have to look out for the people.
Yes.
Like, do the right thing and you will be successful. I'm a big believer if you just keep on doing the right thing, helping people, it will come back.
Yeah.
It will definitely come back to you.
I agree 1,000%.
In some fashion. You might not get that client, but they remember that you were there to help them in a situation where they had no one to help them.
Yeah. Worst case is they're going to tell other people and spread the gospel. Yeah.
And that's kind of the problem is like, if you're not going to make money on that person for helping them, no one's helping them.
Yeah. That is the problem.
And that is a huge problem.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, that's one of the reasons why I've been successful is I'm willing to help people.
I love it. So we always like to know with successful people, not only how you are, different and doing special things, but we love to know how people power through the low points, the challenges. How do you do that, especially from a mindset standpoint?
Running.
Yeah.
No, I mean, quite frankly, it's belief and confidence in yourself that, listen, I've had my failures. I've had people gazillion times say no to me. You learn from them.
Right.
You learn from each conversation. You listen to people. You understand what they're looking for. And if they say no and they tell you why, we'll learn from that.
Yes.
Don't get upset. You move forward, go to the next person, and you try to help people. It took me 8 months before I got my first school district.
Okay.
And every meeting, I didn't, hold my head down. I walked out and said, what were they looking for? How do I change my presentation? What do I need to bring to the table?
Right.
And it took 8 months to get my first school district. My sixth school district was a very large one in New Jersey, one of the largest. And in the next 3 months, I had 54 school districts.
Wow.
And now I'm up to 160.
That's amazing.
So you learn from those. When you go through the peaks, you don't get overly excited because you got to keep on pushing.
Yeah.
You don't sit back and celebrate. You keep on going. You move forward.
Okay.
And when you're down, you learn from those issues.
Right.
And when you're really down, you go for a run and a bike ride and a swim.
Okay.
But I think, failures and the no's and the, no, we're not doing this, or you have to listen to what they're saying, learn from it,
Yeah.
and then utilize the information that you get to grow. And that's what I've done.
Feedback is a gift for sure.
Oh my God, yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's important to create some feedback loops.
Yeah.
And to really welcome it, which
Absolutely.
sounds like you did. 8 months to get that first one, and then
Yeah.
160 now. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're going to talk about burnout and how you stay healthy with a family and lots of professional responsibilities, evening appointments. How do you approach your lifestyle and particularly sleep? We always like to know how much sleep you get.
I used to not be as well as I am now. I kind of go to bed when the kids go to bed.
Yeah.
Which is good.
It's a big factor.
Which is good because credit to my wife, she's very disciplined with the kids and makes them go to bed at a good hour.
Okay.
So yeah, I do pretty well knowing that I run every morning, and then I try to get another workout, whether it's at the gym or in the pool or a bike ride, that I do need my sleep. Not only for my exercise and running and the triathlons and all that, it's also for work, because you have to stay, on point.
Yeah.
You have to be
Your
very
industry.
attentive,
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't take care of your body and your mind, then everything that I preach about, listen to what the client's talking about. What are their points that they're trying to make? If you don't remember all that, or if you're not up to par, and they're telling you all this, you're not gonna remember any of it.
Yeah.
So to me, that's the most important thing in my business.
And how about, you talked about sleep, exercise, how about mental health? Anything in particular you do?
I think all my mental health is when I'm running, biking, or
Yeah.
swimming, because that's when you're by yourself and I actually do a lot of reflecting.
Yeah.
Whether it's about work, I try not to do work a lot. A lot of it's family, kids, my own self. How do I want to improve things? So I use that time, which is a decent amount of time, to really reflect.
And how about nutrition?
Well, yeah, I'm pretty, I have celiac, so
Yeah.
I have gluten-free diet. I eat extremely healthy.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I don't. I bring my meals into work, which I think is really important.
You have to prep all your meals. Yeah.
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 Okay, so we're going to take a quick break.
Yep.
Thank our sponsors. So much good stuff. Everybody stay tuned. We're going to be right back to learn a little bit more about Mark Maroldo and all the good things he's doing. Stay tuned.
Explore, enjoy, experience Mercer County.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Moving Mountains. I'm here today with Mark Maroldo. Mark, thanks for sharing all your experience and your journey. So as someone who competes in triathlons and all these endurance, sports, marathons, I know you understand the importance of preparation and strategy. So you've even identified process as one of your superpowers. How do you apply?
Systematic but flexible. So not every client's the same.
Yeah.
But I've created different processes that I implement based on the client's situation. So I'm very systematic in my approach when I sit down with them. I kind of almost do reverse planning where I don't talk to the client and say how much money do you have in assets. I start backwards. So I work with budgets first, emergency fund. Then I start getting into
So
have a will.
Today's budget. Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So we look at disposable income. What are your goals? How do we feed those goals? We need to know your budget first to find out how we're going to feed those goals.
Yeah, and so the big picture goal, and then you're looking out immediately so you can start to...
Correct. So it's emergency fund, short-term goals, long-term goals.
Yeah, okay.
And then we start feeding those different buckets,
Okay.
whatever they are.
Yeah.
But the system is more of working backwards instead of just sitting down like a lot of advisors do and say, how much are your assets? How much do you have? That's the wrong way to do that. How can you make a decision on how to invest those assets if you don't have the whole picture?
I agree 1,000%. Yeah.
So working on the budget first is the most important thing to me.
Right.
It's the first thing I do.
Okay, I love it. And so you've got some nice frameworks that you follow then when
Correct.
you say systematic and...
Right. And obviously you're going to be flexible because not every client's the same.
Right.
But I try to follow that process of let's look at your budget first. Let's see where you're at. What are your goals? What are you trying to accomplish? How can I get you there?
Yeah.
Do you have a will in place? Like those are the budget, will, emergency fund. Because I won't do anything until I have an emergency fund in place.
And how much do you recommend people have? I just saw a little WhatsApp dialogue on this topic. In your household and or business, for all the entrepreneurs listening, how much do you recommend people have liquid or set aside?
3 to 6 months of income. But I've seen people, and I say that with a big asterisk next to it, because I have clients where their peace of mind is completely different than that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the approach of, I'm not going to sit here and be the person that says you need to do this, do this, do this. I always look at it as we're a team. We work together. We talk through things together.
Yeah.
And because of that approach, I feel like the relationship I have with my clients is stronger because we're working together, and I actually feel like I learn more from them because we talk back and forth. We have a dialogue of, well, you know what? I'm just going to throw this out here. I'm thinking this. How do you think?
Yeah.
And then they talk through what they want, and I learn so much more about the client, and it really, in my opinion, builds a stronger relationship because we're on the same page. I know everything about the client.
Yeah, I love that communication and just really working together and
Right.
thinking about it that way. So I was going to ask you something. How often do you meet with people? Do you meet in person, virtual? Today's world's changed so much.
It's a great question.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. I go back and forth with other colleagues about this. COVID changed my whole world.
Yeah.
When having 160 school districts and meeting with clients, I was driving all over New Jersey and doing face-to-face and doing 3 to 4 appointments a day. And then I was introduced to that thing called Zoom, which was like changed my whole career, quite frankly. So, in 3 to 4 appointments went from 7 to 10 appointments. The capacity was like unlimited.
Yeah.
So one of the things I do every meeting is I do an agenda for every client. So the agenda is, what are we talking about this meeting? Maybe I have some homework after that meeting. They might have some homework after that meeting. And then the last thing on the agenda is, what's our next appointment going to be on? So, what do we need to discuss in the next meeting?
Right.
And there might be a bunch of stuff, there might be a couple things, but the thing I do on the end, at the very end, is I actually schedule the next meeting.
Yeah.
I leave it up to the client.
Okay. One thing I didn't ask you is, who is your ideal client or clients? What kind of people do you love to serve? You might have
Everyone.
a couple different audiences. Like you really have a niche with the school boards.
Yeah, I definitely have
districts. Excuse me.
I definitely have a niche with teachers, but I would say that's about 50% of my business now. I have a lot of doctors that I work with. It's really been my clientele has been kind of ratcheted up as far as like net worth, which is obviously good. I mean, that means I'm doing the right things. I'm getting in front of the right people.
And you're probably helping people have a bigger net worth.
Right. But to get back to, how often I meet with them, I let the client decide, actually.
Yeah.
I do not do annual meetings. I don't say, let's meet in a year or 6 months from now. I let the client decide, because Zoom's given so much flexibility that I have clients that will want to meet every month. But with Zoom, it's you get on the meeting, we check in with each other. Maybe it's a half hour, maybe it's 15 minutes, and that's it. And if we need to schedule something longer, then we do that.
Yeah.
But what that has solidified is they know I'm there for them.
Right.
And with Zoom and the agenda, that time that you have to take up of reaching out to the client and saying, okay, it's time for your review. When do you want to schedule a time? I've cut that completely out. Completely out. So they tell me when they want to meet, and it's already scheduled for the next meeting. So at the end of every meeting, when do you want to meet next?
No, that's good. I like the customization. So as we get towards the end of our time together, what would you say your best boiled down recommendations are for entrepreneurs that want to have the highest levels of success, really climb the highest peaks?
I think in what I've experienced in my career is take those failures, and it's probably been said before, but use them as positives, because every failure you can learn and grow. I have an intern right now. The other thing I would recommend, and I was telling him the other day, because he's in there, he's making copies, and I'm making phone calls to prospects, and I was telling him, listen, the most important thing I can tell you is someone says no, learn from it. Listen to what they are saying. Listening is the most important part of my business, because that's what helps you do the right things for your clients.
Yeah.
Also, when it's a negative comment, you learn from that to grow, so that when you speak to the next person, you learn from that. So listening is so important. And really, I always said this to young kids when I first got into the business and I was successful and they were struggling. I always said, listen, when you have a positive, it's great. You don't celebrate too long. You move on. Because if you want to grow, you don't sit on your laurels.
Right.
You push forward. Same thing when you're down. Learn from it. Learn from those mistakes and push forward.
Right.
So, yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
Great advice. How can everyone follow you, find out more about you, get in touch with you if they need
I'm on LinkedIn.
help?
I'm on LinkedIn, and then bashcapital.com is the website.
Okay.
Really unique company.
Yes.
Extremely unique.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Okay. LinkedIn's the best place, and the website. Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, for coming in, sharing your story and all your lessons. Incredible. All right, Mark, we'll appreciate it. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. Please check out Mark and all the good stuff he's got going on LinkedIn and on the website. And join us again next week for our next episode of Moving Mountains.